In 1945, amid the waning moments of World War II, a Zero fighter touches down on Odo, an isle hosting a service station for kamikaze aircraft. Following an exhaustive check, Tachibana informs the aviator Koichi that they detected no faults. Koichi becomes guarded instantly, as it appears he fabricated the defect to preserve his existence. As he strides off to elude Tachibana's awareness of his agitation, a different serviceman expresses his yearning for more troops akin to him, citing the conflict is virtually over. Just then, Koichi is taken aback by the sight of numerous expired fish in the sea. Subsequently that evening, an alarm bell resounds across the encampment. Typically, it signals airstrikes, but as the beacon casts light over the vicinity, they're astonished to witness a colossal creature known as Godzilla emerging from the ocean. Godzilla promptly topples a lookout tower and ignites a blaze, prompting all to scurry for cover in a dugout. Although the men serve in the armed forces, they are mere technicians, hence Tachibana implores Koichi to deploy his aircraft's arsenal against Godzilla. Koichi dashes to his fighter jet, yet upon confronting Godzilla at close quarters, he's paralyzed by dread. The technicians, seized by terror, commence firing at Godzilla on their own, infuriating the beast and prompting it to savagely ravage the dugouts and slay individuals by flinging them aside, trampling them, lashing them with its tail, or consuming them. As the technicians scatter and Godzilla lays waste to the base, Koichi is petrified and bolts from the aircraft, just as Godzilla hoists it aloft. Subsequently, the behemoth hurls the aircraft, and the ensuing detonation renders Koichi unconscious. Come dawn, Koichi stirs to discover a sole other survivor, Tachibana, who is assembling the cadavers for dignified interment. Tachibana, incensed, berates Koichi for his inaction. In due course, Japan concedes defeat, and a vessel arrives to retrieve all the remaining servicemen for their return journey. Mute, Tachibana hands Koichi the photographs he retrieved from the deceased. By December, Koichi revisits his district in Tokyo, only to find it devastated. His dwelling is reduced to debris. Koichi is plagued by survivor's remorse, questioning if his actions could have altered the outcome. His neighbor Sumiko spots him, and recalling his intended role as a kamikaze pilot, scolds him for his perceived timidity. She has endured the loss of all her offspring to the American onslaughts and informs him of his parents' demise as well. Overwhelmed, Koichi reflects on his parents' correspondence urging his safe return and ponders the true resolution to this quandary. Days later, Koichi has fashioned a basic abode from the ruins. Amidst a visit to the underground market, a woman, chased for pilfering blankets, dashes past and entrusts a child into his care. Koichi ponders abandoning the infant in the marketplace, yet he cannot bring himself to do so and opts to bring her along while he looks for the woman. He quickly locates her close by. Her name is Noriko, and she has been awaiting his return to reclaim baby Akako. Subsequently, Noriko accompanies Koichi to his abode, requesting to partake in some sustenance for herself and the child. She divulges that she is unwed and the infant is not biologically hers. She took the baby under her wing from a mother on the brink of death amidst the Tokyo bombardments. Much like Koichi, she too has lost her kin. Koichi intends for them to depart post-dinner, but as they converse, they drift off to sleep, inadvertently spending the night together. The following morning, Sumiko chastises Koichi for sheltering Noriko and Akako, reproaching him that it's belated to assume the role of a savior. Nevertheless, her attitude shifts upon realizing Noriko isn't the infant's biological mother. She begins assisting them in caring for Akako, and even contributes a sack of rice to ensure the child is nourished. Come March 1946, Koichi arrives home with news of securing a lucrative role in disarming undetonated explosives in the seas encircling Japan. Noriko deems it excessively perilous, yet Koichi contends it's the sole option to fend off starvation. He further clarifies that the vessels are engineered to dodge mines. Yet, reaching the wharf, Koichi is astounded to find his assignment aboard the Shinsumaru, a modest timber vessel. The former naval scientist Kenji clarifies that they opt for timber to deflect American magnetic mines. He also introduces Shiro, who was too youthful to have participated in the conflict. As they venture onto the sea, CG delineates their task. A wire strung between Shinsei Maru and another vessel named Kishai Maru enables them to sever mine cables and hoist them above water, where they can be safely detonated from afar using machine gun blasts. Koichi tests the machine gun and demonstrates remarkable sharpshooting skills, a byproduct of his aviation background. Thus, he is assigned this duty on the boat. Shiro expresses a regrettable desire for the war's extension to partake in combat, which Koichi promptly rebukes for its dreadful nature. That evening, as Koichi slumbers, he is jolted awake by sudden screams. He emerges and witnesses the island's mechanics crushed under Godzilla's feet once more, but then he snaps awake, grasping it was all a bad dream. Overwhelmed by survivor's guilt, he grasps Noriko, pondering if his existence has been a mere illusion since the island. Frightened, Noriko shoves him away, and Koko crumbles emotionally as he gazes upon the photographs of the perished technicians and their kin. Come July 1946, a colossal detonation at sea ensues from an American nuclear trial at Bikini Atoll, part of Operation Crossroads. Submerged at the time, Godzilla undergoes a monstrous transformation. As time passes, Koichi's circumstances begin to look up. He remains with the mine-sweeping crew, while Noriko takes care of Akako at their residence. Before long, Koichi manages to purchase a motorbike and undertake significant upgrades to their abode, and the neighbors too are reconstructing, gradually restoring the area to a proper community once more. During an evening meal with Koichi's squad mates, Kenji captures delightful snapshots of the group. The comrades presume Noriko to be Koichi's spouse and are taken aback upon discovering the actual nature of their cohabitation. When Akako addresses Koichi as her father, he dissuades her from doing so, raising the crew's concern further. They prod him to embrace the notion of having found a new family, yet Koichi persists in his refusal. In March 1947, Noriko secures clerical employment in Ginza, a thriving sector of Tokyo. She conveys to Koichi her desire for self-sufficiency and to clear the path for him to seek a spouse. She also mentions Sumiko's eager willingness to look after Akako during their work hours. Concurrently, the U.S. administration conceals the destruction of numerous naval crafts by an unidentified adversary. Visual evidence of an anomalous entity in the waters affirms it to be Godzilla. The obliteration of each vessel coincides with the detection of radioactive traces. Radar systems commence monitoring Godzilla's trajectory, verifying his approach towards Japan within weeks. Nonetheless, the U.S. opts against intervention, wary of jeopardizing Soviet relations. By May 1947, the Shinshi Maru embarks on a critical task to the Ogasawara Islands, only to discover a colossal American vessel utterly ravaged. While the crew ponders the cause of such devastation, Koichi spots deceased fish in the waters and warns his mates of Godzilla. Shiro is appalled by the notion of confronting Godzilla with their modest crafts, yet Kenji clarifies that their role is merely to hinder Godzilla's progress until a warship can intervene. The directive mandates they repurpose retrieved mines as armaments while maintaining the confidentiality of the operation. Having secured a pair of mines, Koichi observes an alarming increase in aquatic fatalities and sounds the alert. He implores Seiji to retreat, arguing their inability to engage in combat, but Seiji remains resolute, refusing to allow Tokyo to suffer another calamity. In that instant, Godzilla erupts from the sea, swiftly sinking the Kishin Maru, which sends Seiji into a state of panic. The Shinsei Maru makes a hasty retreat, with Godzilla in pursuit. The crew hastily deploys a mine into the water, but the blast fails to harm the colossal creature. Koichi then takes aim with a machine gun, but the bullets are ineffective against Godzilla's tough hide. Kenji suggests targeting the creature's mouth. They attempt to set off another mine, but the detonator malfunctions. Koichi quickly reverts to the machine gun and successfully detonates the mine near Godzilla's face. The explosion injures Godzilla's left eye and a significant portion of his face, yet it also triggers a surge that jostles the vessel, wounding Koichi and Shiro. Regrettably, Godzilla's injuries heal swiftly, and he emerges from the depths, bellowing in fury, poised for retaliation. Abruptly, a warship makes its entrance, firing upon Godzilla, who diverts his wrath towards the ship, savagely dismantling it with his talons. The warship persists in its assault, driving the creature to tumble back into the ocean. Nonetheless, Godzilla begins to radiate as he navigates beneath the ship, obliterating it instantly with a fiery beam. Godzilla then bellows and resumes his advance towards Tokyo. After some time, Koichi regains consciousness in a hospital, welcomed by his fellow sailors. Koichi yearns to warn the townspeople, yet Kenji reveals the authorities are still concealing the truth. Upon returning home, Noriko is wounded by Koichi's silence, prompting him to relent and disclose all, sharing the photographs. Racked with remorse, Koichi believes he was not meant to survive, but Noriko comforts him, echoing her parents' last words that survival was destiny for those who made it through the war. The following day, the Tokyo Bay defense spots Godzilla approaching and receives authorization to activate their minefield. Despite this, the detonations fail to impede Godzilla. An evacuation is swiftly declared in Ginza, and Koichi, upon hearing the broadcast, becomes anxious for Noriko. In no time, Godzilla invades the city, wreaking havoc and hurling a train carriage, halting Noriko's train in its path. Panic ensues as Godzilla advances, chomping down on the train, causing it to fracture. Numerous individuals plummet to their demise. Initially, Noriko clings on, but upon sighting water, she leaps to safety. Godzilla's rampage persists, demolishing the cherished Nippon Theater and claiming the lives of several journalists broadcasting from a rooftop. Noriko makes it to the street, jostled by the crowd, but Koichi swoops in to whisk her away. As the populace flees and edifices crumble, tanks roll in and commence firing, to no avail. In a dramatic turn, Godzilla's fins illuminate and enlarge. He then unleashes an atomic heat ray upon the tanks, triggering a nuclear blast that devastates the vicinity. As the shockwave approaches, Noriko shoves Koichi aside, sacrificing herself in the process. Overcome with grief, Koichi collapses, screaming, as a dark rain descends and Godzilla retreats into the ocean. Subsequent broadcasts report that 30,000 civilians were either harmed or perished, and 20,000 structures were leveled. The vicinity of Godzilla's destruction is sealed off due to elevated radiation, Koichi's comrades assist him in organizing a tribute for Noriko, but his sorrow renders him listless. Akako's tears soon follow as she calls for her mother, while Koichi contemplates the photographs of the mechanics, tormented by the belief that he is being penalized for his past fears. Kenji reveals to Koichi that a coalition of civilians has devised a strategy to vanquish Godzilla and extends an invitation to join their assembly. Later, Koichi, accompanied by Shiro, Seiji, and numerous ex-naval servicemen, attends the gathering. A captain discloses that Japan has reclaimed 4 destroyers through negotiation, albeit they will be devoid of armaments. Kenji then proposes his plan to lure Godzilla over to Kami Bay's deepest trench and attach canisters of freon gas to the creature. The intent is to diminish the water's buoyancy, compelling Godzilla to sink to a depth of 1,500 meters, where a drastic pressure shift would crush him. Koichi inquires about the certainty of this method's lethality towards Godzilla, but Kenji admits there's no guarantee, prompting Koichi to contemplate departure. Kenji discloses an alternative strategy: giant balloons would be inflated beneath Godzilla to swiftly elevate him and annihilate him through explosive decompression. Despite a live demonstration, skepticism lingers among some, leading them to depart. Nevertheless, the majority remains, united in their resolve to safeguard their homeland. The Shinsamaru's crew, over drinks, learns from Kenji that Godzilla likely deems Tokyo his domain. The scheme to entice the beast involves acoustic minesweepers broadcasting his own roars. Acknowledging the plan's potential pitfalls, Koichi volunteers for the enticement task, conditional on securing a fighter plane. Seiji questions if Koichi harbors a death wish and reproaches him for not wedlock with Noriko, suggesting she would have been safeguarded at home rather than in Ginza, where her life was claimed. Koichi confesses his desire for matrimony, yet he feels bound by an unresolved conflict. Subsequently, Kenji summons Koichi to a hangar, revealing the procurement of an anti-bomber aircraft. Neglected in storage, the plane demands the expertise of a premier mechanic for restoration. Koichi's preference for Tachibana is met with a dead end, as no current whereabouts are listed. Driven by a need to rectify past errors, Koichi dismisses the option of alternative mechanics and commences a letter campaign, armed with a strategy. One evening, Koichi is unexpectedly assaulted and rendered unconscious. Shortly after, he regains consciousness to find Tachibana, incensed over the letters. Koichi had penned letters to Tachibana's former comrades, falsely accusing him of the tragedy on Odo Island, knowing that Tachibana would only react out of anger, not to please. Initially, Tachibana is adamant about not assisting, but Koichi persuades him by sharing his plan. Given that the mine inflicted damage on Godzilla's visage, Koichi proposes piloting an explosive-laden aircraft directly into the creature's maw. Over the ensuing days, the team dedicates themselves to preparing for their offensive. Then, one night, buoys designed to detect radiation signal Godzilla's impending arrival within a day. Kenji outlines their course on a chart and instructs the volunteers to spend the evening with their kin. Post-meeting, Kenji and Seiji inform Shiro, still recuperating, that he'll remain home the next day. Shiro's objections are met with Seiji's assurance that his lack of combat experience is an honor. Simultaneously, Tachibana examines the cockpit and is struck by inspiration. At his residence, Akako presents Koichi with a drawing depicting them alongside Noriko, which moves her to tears. As the crucial day dawns, Koichi leaves a missive beside a slumbering Akako before discreetly departing. Subsequently, Akako delivers the letter to Sumiko, who uncovers a sum of money and a plea to care for Akako. In a twist of fate, Sumiko receives a telegram bearing astonishing news. Meanwhile, at the hangar, Tachibana unveils his modifications to the aircraft. He has replaced certain non-critical parts with a pair of bombs. As Koichi settles into the cockpit, a realization dawns on him. A desire for survival still flickers within. Tachibana, echoing this sentiment, reminds him of the Odo Island mechanic's will to live. Clutching the mechanic's photographs, Koichi reaffirms his commitment to safeguard what remains. Tachibana then presents him with the bomb's safety mechanism and an additional undisclosed item. The tension escalates as the buoys signal Godzilla's proximity and the sirens throughout Sagami Bay blare in warning. The sudden crash of a flaming vessel at the port serves as a harrowing harbinger. Godzilla has arrived sooner than expected, heralding a confrontation that looms on the horizon. As Koichi affixes Noriko's image within the cockpit and ascends into the sky, Godzilla advances towards the harbor. Despite this, Kenji remains steadfast, urging the team to proceed with their strategy, pinning his hopes on Koichi. The fleet sets sail, and as Koichi's aircraft converges with Godzilla, he unleashes a barrage of gunfire to distract the behemoth, executing deft maneuvers to evade any reprisal. Lured by the aircraft, Godzilla pursues it seaward, where a pair of unmanned vessels lies in wait. His atomic breath, unleashed upon these ships, inadvertently inflicts damage upon himself, causing a tumultuous wave that rocks the crewed vessels. With Godzilla momentarily weakened and regenerating, the team seizes the opportunity to advance their plan. The destroyers maneuver to encase Godzilla within a ring of gas canisters, all while Koichi's aerial antics keep the monster at bay. Despite the vessels grazing one another, the crew remains unscathed. Godzilla's impending attack is thwarted as the canisters rupture, dragging him beneath the waves. Submerged beyond the designated depth, Godzilla's movements cease, and his atomic charge dissipates. Yet, he persists in life. In a bid to resurface the beast, Kenji inflates the balloons, but to no avail, Godzilla annihilates them with ease. The ship's attempt to haul him proves futile. The Leviathan's mass overwhelms their equipment, leading to a crane's demise. In a moment of unity, a flotilla of tugboats, spearheaded by Shiro, converges to lend their strength. With concerted effort, Godzilla is once again visible, bearing the scars of decompression, yet defiantly alive. As Godzilla gathers energy for another assault, the crew braces for the worst. But in an unexpected twist, Koichi's aircraft plunges directly into Godzilla's gaping maw, setting off the explosives and sealing the monster's fate. A hush falls over the scene, broken only by the sight of Koichi descending from the heavens, his parachute billowing a testament to Tachibana's foresight and the hidden ejector seat. As the dust settles, the remnants of Godzilla's once formidable form disintegrate, signaling the end of an era. A collective salute rises from the ship's crew, a solemn tribute to the close of a tumultuous chapter in history. As they reach the shore, the community greets them with warmth and jubilation. Sumiko, eager and animated, presents Koichi with the telegram. In a flurry of urgency, Koichi and Akako hasten to the hospital, where they discover Noriko, wounded yet resilient in her survival. She questions Koichi, "Is your war finally over?" In a cascade of emotions, he enfolds her in an embrace, tears streaming, oblivious to the Godzilla-like markings etched upon her neck. Deep beneath the ocean's surface, a fragment of Godzilla's being stirs, hinting at life as it begins to mend itself. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications to catch more videos like this. Thank you for watching.